Mailbag.
Yeah, if you ever want to know what I'm doing, if I say a sentence like, "What are we doing here now?" that's because I'm looking for the button. I normally have those set up so perfectly, I misplaced it. You know where it was? What was on top of that button?
What?
Oh, the garbage man.
The garbage man has not come out for a while.
That's true.
We got to get that more involved.
Well,
That's one of my favorites.
Ronnie Hillman's production last week
Yeah.
was on. Well, I guess
What
it's not garbage.
direction?
That's not really garbage time. That's
Well-
comeback. That's comeback time. By the way, I do disagree with you, Jason. I don't think that I don't think there's any chance the Denver Broncos Pittsburgh game is a high-scoring game.
No,
I think it's going to be a whooping.
by the standards,
by
the
Pittsburgh?
standards of Denver games, it will be a high-scoring game because all Denver games are low-scoring. Their defense is amazing, but that's the situation where you can run the ball. By their standards, there's going to be more points put up against them. That's what I'm saying.
Easily
31-13. That's my guess.
It easily could have been a high-scoring game last week. Osweiler had over 300 yards, and they had to settle for field goals. So you convert a couple of those field goals, and there's points.
It's going to be
on the board.
56-50. That's what's going to happen. All right, we're answering some questions here on the show today. It's our mailbag section. If you have a question for us, you can go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button. It is easy. If you've got a big Week 15 playoff matchup question, you need a helping hand, that is where you go. We have been answering questions. I don't remember what the number was. I think we've taken in about 18 to 20,000 questions this year, and we're here to deliver them. You can get questions answered real quick if you need them. Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click on the Submit a Question button, and we will answer those for you. You can also call us on our voicemail line, 302-464-TFFB. Leave us a voicemail question. Let's go ahead and answer this one from Kajel?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to pronounce
Gel.
this.
Gel. I think that's the right way to say
Gel.
it. Gel in Washington. I have Gurley and Lamar Miller locked in for next week, but I can't decide on who to flex. Should my flex be Devontae Freeman at the Jaguars or David Johnson against the Eagles? Thanks for all the great advice this season. I couldn't have finished my first fantasy season 11-2 if it wasn't for the fantasy football.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
very
a
nice.
great question.
And to me, the Jaguars are actually a decent run defense. Atlanta is burning. Atlanta is burning to the ground. David Johnson is on the best offense in football. In a great matchup, I'm going David Johnson.
I second that. I'm going to go with David Johnson.
We've got a unanimous.
Incredible that we are saying
crazy.
that right now. Yeah. All right, E in San Francisco, please pick a running back and a flex. Javorius
Nope.
versus the Chiefs. Hightower versus the Lions.
Maybe.
Ryan Matthews against the Cardinals. Kamar Aiken against the Chiefs. Or Antonio Gates against the Dolphins.
I'm gonna.
It's very
Hightower's in. at
Hightower
running
is in
back.
for me too.
The question then is we have Matthews against a very stout run D. He's in a platoon. You got Javorius against the Chiefs. And you got Aiken against the Chiefs. So for me, Hightower is in automatically. I'm having a hard time with the flex.
I'm going with Gates.
Yeah,
it's a full point PPR. The Dolphins are not a good pass defense, and Phillip Rivers has to throw the ball to somebody.
I agree. I would go Gates here, but I wouldn't love it.
Gates or Aiken, I flip a coin on it.
Full point PPR, Kamar Aiken can be fine. He went up against the Seattle Seahawks this last week and got 5 for 90?
5 for 90.
Yeah, and that was, if you watch the catches, those are Bon Jovi living on a prayer. Just Jimmy Clausen
Jump
saying,
balls.
Please, Kamar Aiken, please.
Hey, he came down.
He did. So you're right. It could be, but I would go Gates. I'd
Sure.
go Gates.
Josh in Harrisburg, what's up?
Hey, Josh.
Hi.
He needs some help. Chandrone against the Bengals. Bilal Powell against the Cowboys, or Buck Allen against the Chiefs. He needs upside, and he's in a full PPR.
Full point.
Ooh.
Man.
So if you need upside in a full PPR, which guy are you really taking here? Is it Buck Allen because the workload's there?
No.
Could be.
I mean, you got two high workload guys in there, and I know he was. Man, for me, it's the Chandron or Bilal Powell for me. I'm trying to work out who I'd rather
It's between
play.
Bilal Powell and Buck Allen for me. I don't
So then
think
go
Drone-
Bilal Powell.
Here's what I'm going to take Buck Allen, and I'm going to tell you why. Because 2 weeks ago, he scored 30 fantasy points. And so, yes, none of these guys excite me with their matchups at all. But if you're talking about an upside, I think all three of these guys are scoring 10 or less. So I'm going to take the guy who did it 2 weeks ago, and that's the only reason why.
Now,
That's
2 weeks ago,
that's my
Bilal
logic.
Powell also had 21, but I agree with your logic, and I am fine going with Buck Allen here.
I would not.
You would just sit them all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, who would you take then? Are you going to go Joan?
Yeah.
So we just know.
Well,
Josh-
it's 2, but 2. You went 2 with Buck Allen, so you can go with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, okay. All right. Ralph in the semifinal.
You did not read that correct.
Okay. How do you read it?
Ralph in semifinal.
Oh, I didn't realize
It's
that.
in capital letters with exclamation points.
Look, that's
we
your
use,
job.
We use these things for a reason so we can communicate tone of voice in the written language.
Is that what 3?
Andy.
That's what 3 exclamation points is?
Yes.
You back away from the mic, and it's more of an
Well, I
announcer
don't.
voice.
If I went my full voice into this precious microphone,
Our listeners' ears would explode.
everything would explode.
Melting brains.
All right.
It would be Chernobyl.
Well, help.
It would be terrible for everyone, so I don't do it. You're welcome, America.
I feel like fantasy Chernobyl happened last week to my team. I'm going in. I'm going to be starting. Who's the bottom of the? Chris Polk is going to be my real key this week. I'm be starting some trash. All right, but I'm glad I'm in. All right,
Ralph.
Dez Bryant. He needs a flex.
Half point PPR.
He needs a flex. Half point PPR. Dez against the Jets. Gio against the 49ers. John Brown against the Eagles. I'm going John Brown.
John Brown all the way.
Yeah.
The Eagles have given up a lot of touchdowns. Carson Palmer's been on fire. This is the type of game that John Brown can get something.
It's a start your Cardinals weekend again, and John Brown has major upside.
I'm going to tell you what. I think Jeremy Hill's in my start of the week consideration, by the way.
Ooh.
Robert in New York.
From the cellar to the penthouse.
It happens. It's
Jeremy
called fantasy
Hill.
football. I learned it from the book Eddie Lacy Adventures.
It's a choose your own where you got to flip to page 65.
Yeah, I could take this joke for 10 minutes after you set that up, but I'm just gonna move on. That's one of the things we got to do here. Robert in New York. Man, I remember those books now. Now I'm thinking back. All right, Robert in New York with Dalton out. Should I start Tyler Eifert, assuming he plays, or Richard Rodgers against Oakland this week? That's a tough decision.
I don't think it's all that tough. If Tyler Eifert plays, I realize there's a change at quarterback, so you never know how it's gonna pan out. But Tyler Eifert to me is a much better physical talent player weapon than Richard Rodgers is. So I would go with Tyler Eifert.
I agree. And Rodgers crashed down to earth last week, even though he scored a touchdown, 1 catch, 2 yards, 1 touchdown. Exactly what we saw from him all year long. That one game was more anomalous.
If there's any Hail Marys going on in the Green Bay game, I'll go Richard Rodgers. But I can't predict those, so I'm going to go with
Hail
Eifert.
Mary leagues.
Yeah, Hail Mary.
I think we said we'd start Cordell Stewart, Doug Flutie. Those guys would be in there. Hail Mary leagues. All right, Ben in Seattle. First, thanks for your awesome advice. Because of it, I've made the playoffs and got past the first round. Awesome.
Nice.
Way to go, Ben. Anyway, after Travis Kelce crapped the bed
Yeah.
against some good matchups, I can't trust him. Well, you just talked about this, right, in your sit. Would you start Zach Miller, Ben Watson, or Jacob Tammy over him?
I would.
Wow, that is rough. I would play
Ben. Well,
I'd play Ben Watson first,
It's
and then
Ben
Miller.
Watson. Ben Watson is at home against the Lions,
Yep.
a team that they could simply pack it in and show up, collect a paycheck, try not to get hurt.
Monday night,
And prime time.
prime time.
Drew Brees in prime time is fantastic for fantasy football, so that's where I would go.
I agree.
And I'd put Zach Miller second, personally.
Yeah, probably.
I'm fine with that. I don't love the matchup against the Vikings, but I like it better than against the Ravens for Travis Kelce.
All right, Tommy in Seattle. Okay, I'm not sure what to do at wide receiver. I am number 1 heading into a matchup against an up-and-coming team in my league. If you had to start 2, who would you choose between, I'm guessing that's Randall Cobb.
Is it?
That's Randall Cobb against the Raiders.
Okay.
Travis Benjamin against the Seahawks. Dez against the Jets. Aiken against the Chiefs. And Devontae Parker against the Chargers.
Oof.
I'll tell you
Cobb
right now,
is
I'm
in.
putting Cobb in
Cobb is in.
based on the new play calling, 8 catches last week. I think that I'm going to play Devontae Parker for upside at that point because of the
Wow.
snaps.
I agree.
Wow. I'm going to play Aiken, and here's why. Over Parker. Obviously, Cobb is in. He's the number 1 team heading into a matchup. It seems like
He's
is
the number
more-
1 team?
We said I am number 1 heading into a matchup
Oh,
against
not
I
an
got
upcoming
you.
team.
I thought you meant Aiken. I'm sorry.
The Ravens are number 1. Haven't you checked the standings?
So if he's favored, I think Aiken, he's going to at least get targets and
no,
work.
that's a good point.
So
That's a good point because Parker showed you he can give you 2 if their play calling
Yeah,
is
Ryan
what it was.
Tannehill, throw the ball to Parker.
if you
Very-
do need upside, Parker
Please.
would be the way to go.
All right, John in Toledo, which 2 wide receivers should I start this week? Well, Okay, the first name is Odell Beckham Jr.
Hey, he's in.
But he's against the Panthers, so there's hesitation.
Josh
People are
Norman,
not sure. Calvin Johnson against the Saints. Everybody says the Saints stink. And Doug Baldwin against the Browns.
Oh, man.
This is actually tougher, but I'm not sitting ODB.
I'm going Odell Beckham Jr.
Dougie Baldwin.
and
Yep.
Doug Baldwin.
Wow.
We are going to start
Wow.
Doug Baldwin.
You heard it here
Over
first.
Calvin.
Doug Baldwin over Calvin in a juicy match.
Calvin's finished.
Wow.
Man, I am having a hard time with that. I really am because
I have no problem doing that.
I actually think Calvin's going to have a good game. And not just because of the matchup, because I think they'll try
He
to
very
force
well-
feed him a
he
little
could
bit.
be. Well, what's funny about the Calvin Johnson question here, I got to pull it up. But I was playing a game with the guys because we were trying to figure out our sits of the week, and it was how bold do you go with the sit of the week?
At playoff time.
And so I gave him some statistics of this. I'm a player A. This is what I've done the last 2 weeks: 4 catches for 60 yards with only 1 touchdown. And that's Calvin Johnson.
Over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. And
That's-
like you said, they look like a team that kind of maybe moved on last week. That could be wrong. It could have been the matchup. Now you've got 2 teams that are not going to make the playoffs fighting against each other on Monday night. I think prime time for Calvin, that could bode well for him. But, man, we just started Doug Baldwin, and I don't know how you don't. The guy's got 8 touchdowns in 3 games.
Against the Browns at home.
Peter in D.C., he needs to start 2, okay? Devontae Freeman against Jacksonville. Alshon Jeffrey against Minnesota. Mike Evans against St. Louis. Michael Floyd against Philadelphia. And he says thanks for getting him to Week 15 in the playoffs.
Excellent, Peter. It's a low-value PPR, 0.2, so that's not really in play here, catches.
For me, this one's not very hard. I'm playing Devonta Freeman, and I'm playing Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was wondering if you were going to go Evans, but I think he's much less reliable than Jeffrey, so I'm definitely going Freeman and Jeffrey here.
I would go Jeffrey and Evans.
Yeah, Jeffrey was number 1 for me on that list. So
It's
I'm not going to sit Freeman down, though.
I'm willing to sit him down because it's not a heavy PPR. It's actually very difficult for me to sit Michael Floyd versus Philadelphia. Like I said, 4 of his last 5 games, over 100 yards. And Larry Fitzgerald, it looks like he's slowing down with the possession. And this is a perfect matchup where Carson's going to go deep.
Well, Larry has 1. The Cardinals are the top offense with touchdowns every week, and he's only got 1. Larry does over like 8 weeks.
Yeah,
so
well,
they're going somewhere else. Somebody's catching a touchdown.
When the matchup is they need to play underneath, that's when Larry excels and he gets his 8 to 10 catches that week. If you can go over the top, John Brown and Michael Floyd are worth playing.
Yeah. All right, Larry, by the way, Larry's the number 3 in the league in receptions this year behind Julio and then Antonio Brown. Mike in Gainesville, Florida. I need to play 2 running backs. I have the big salad, Sean Drone.
Yes.
Matt Forte, Latavius Murray, and Tim Hightower. This is interesting.
Half point PPR. Matt Forte is in.
For sure.
Yes, that is a done deal. Vikings are a little beat up. Forte's been playing very well.
For me, it's between Latavius Murray and Hightower.
Right, and I'm actually playing Hightower. That game's in Green Bay. I'm playing Hightower.
Ooh. Yeah, I can dig it. Hightower and Forte.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, Tim Hightower. Are you playing Tim Hightower this week against me, Jason?
I might be. We will. We'll post a picture
That'd be
of
very
our
interesting.
of our somewhat set lineups today.
Well, I mean, the game's Monday night is what I mean. So you've got the potential to have, you're probably going to be down by 40, 50 points. Can Hightower bring you back on Monday Night Football? I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah,
So-
we'll see.
We're in the semis now.
You know what, Andy? Let me just say this to you.
In our league of record, our league of pride.
One of us is going to the championship game, and I wish you the best. And if you win, I will be rooting for you for a championship. May the best team win this week.
What is going
He is
on?
being playing some kind of
Gotta find-
fantasy karmic game with
Gotta
me.
find the angle here. The look on his face says, "I am not genuine. I'm going to."
No,
sit-
the look on his
Really?
face says
Oh.
he's
I
kind
was
of just
trying to be as genuine
I
as
see
I could
through
be.
it. I see through the mask as you try and take a refreshing sip to hide your evil intentions.
Hey,
I have no
we'll
bad-
find out what happens. Thursday, we got starts of the week. Come right back here, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. We'll talk to you then.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers.